when we first joined in this movement and we were hearing about the Goswamis, and here were these amazing people that they slept utmost 1 or 2 hours nightly and only drank a teaspoon of buttermilk a day. And these were our role models, you know. And they would like roll on the floor, not the floor, like here's the floor. They were out there rolling in the dust of Vrindavan, you know, and crying out in great separation. And everyone's always thinking, okay, well, if that's what's going to happen to me, then I'll just become so detached, I can't even, you know. But that's a very advanced stage. And those people, they have already fully renounced any form of external life outside of Krishna consciousness. So for us, we're not going to become, you know, heartless renunciates. We'll become greatly attached to Lord Krishna. And our activities will become perfected through this process of devotional service. And as that happens, we ourselves will become perfect. We'll know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, you know. And carry on our life in a way that's pleasing to Lord Krishna, pleasing to the devotees, pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, and of course pleasing to ourselves. So this verse gives us a little outline on that. So, I was told, like I came here on a bus, so Sashi Prema told me that some of you have been reading Shyam Sundar's book, maybe when they're chasing the rhinos. For those of you who haven't, I'm not telling you which books to read, but
I am read it.
It's a good read. It's a good read. And Srila Prabhupada brought to us the concept of a person, that the Supreme Personality was a person, not an abstract concept. And actually for myself, upon the first contact with the Srimad Bhagavatam, which was my first contact was in late September of 1966, and looking through that book, and I kept seeing this phrase, Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that was just like a revelation to me. It was just like something happening here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I became attracted just to wanting to know more. Srila Prabhupada was really fixed in the absolute truth. And he never deviated in presenting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nowadays, sometimes I see people, even devotees, are talking about love and light, sending you love and light. Okay, very good, but where's the light coming from? What's it for? And where's this love? Where is it coming from? As hippies, we all were kind of interested in love, peace and love. That was kind of, just like we say Hare Krishna, like peace and love brother, peace and love sister. But I have no clue. What is this love and where is peace to be found? And the idea of a supreme person, hey, you're God, I'm God, we're all God, there's no God, God is dead. We're completely and totally confused. But Prabhupada gave this clear and simple and sublime method to us and introduced Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he didn't deviate. He didn't soft pedal it. Like sometimes, seriously, you probably all look at Facebook, you see some devotees and they don't even say Hare Krishna, love and light or something, or the Divine One. Okay, who's that Divine One? If I said oh, the nice householder, oh, nice householder. No, it's Sacramento, you know, there's a name there, it's Krishna. And Prabhupada was really firm on that. So here's a letter to a godbrother. And this godbrother happened to have been a published poet before he came to Krishna consciousness. And after a while he thought, he should write some poetry. And the leader of the community agreed that he should write some poetry, and they made a little book, and they offered it to Srila Prabhupada. So here was Prabhupada's reply about that little poetry book. I have read the Chintamani book. The name of the book was Chintamani. I have read the Chintamani book. Krishna's name is only mentioned in 2 poems in the entire book. What is this? There are so many poems written by great acharyas. Why do you try to concoct something like this? It is not in our line. It is a waste of time, paper, money, ink, and labor. There's so much work to do for spreading Krishna consciousness. You should spend more time reading my books very carefully and stop all this unnecessary manufacturing. Why is there no picture of Krishna on the cover? If you have desire to write poetry, better you read 1 chapter of Krishna book very carefully, then put it to poetry. But do not concoct anything. There is no need for that type of poetry. If you do this, I think it will be appreciated very nicely. But Prabhupada just was so clear about things, So he really corrected him like the thunderbolt. But then he said, but here's what you want to write, here's what to do, here's how to do it. He didn't leave him dangling, he just didn't hit him on the head and walk away. And that was just how Srila Prabhupada was. It was his duty to correct us. If not, we would be blindly doing our stupid little whatever we were doing. And because we were so, most of our lives, most of us when we met, late teens, early 20s, whatever, but we hadn't been brought up from a sattvic point of view, and certainly not a Krishna conscious point of view. So we had a lot of conditioning, a lot of layers to go through. So sometimes, the thunderbolt approach had to be there. But it was a loving attack to correct us, to help us on the path of devotional service. But the point here was, of course, presenting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which means mentioning his name, Another aspect, wonderful aspect of Srila Prabhupada, that, and it's a quality of a devotee, that equal to everyone. Of course, that would be very misleading to think, he's just like me, equal to me. No. But Prabhupada himself presented himself as very insignificant. He would say, I have not done anything extraordinary. Now, if you think that that's a fact, then you're kind of missing the point here of Srila Prabhupada's beautiful and tangible humility. And he said that he was speaking this in, a spiritual master takes his disciples as his spiritual master. That is the position. He thinks, Krishna has sent me so many spiritual masters. He doesn't think I'm a spiritual master. He thinks himself as their servant. Because they have to be trained, Krishna appointed him to train them. Therefore, he thinks himself as a servant to his disciples. This is a position. So when one is advanced, he can see the importance of the devotees. Advanced devotees never disobeys or disrespects another devotee. Disrespect to another devotee is a great offense. Vaishnavapara It's a very serious offense. Therefore, we teach to address each other among the devotees as Prabhu. Prabhu. Such and such Prabhu. This should not be simply spoken by the lips. It should be realized. Everyone should think other devotees as his Prabhu, his master. Not he should try to become the master. This was during the Nectar of Devotion lecture in Vrindavan during Kartik of 1972. And in those beautiful early days with Srila Prabhupada, every one of us addressed everyone as Prabhu. Nowadays, somehow, Prabhu has morphed in ISKCON to mean man, male figure. But Prabhupada gave us this very sublime lesson, and it's how we addressed each other. And it was very beautiful because, as he said, don't try yourself to become the master. No, think of everyone else. Prabhu means master. So we had that mood, and it was very nice. Then Prabhupada was asked, are you the spiritual master of the world? And he looked down and he replied, no, I am simply their servant. And then Prabhupada was so benevolent. We talked just in the verse, it talked about getting association of pure devotees. So what was Prabhupada's definition of a pure devotee? He said, anyone sincerely serving the spiritual master is a pure devotee. Now, of course, when we heard that, we were like immediately thinking, well, I'm a pure devotee. And of course, we found out probably we weren't. Just like you have a child in preschool, and then you have, like I was on the bus today and I met a young lady from Pittsburgh, and she was here in California getting her PhD. Okay, the kid in preschool, like we have Gopal Garden in New Vrindavan, that preschool kid is a student, and that PhD person is also a student. But big difference, right? They're students, but there's different levels. So the same way, the beginning level of pure devotee is follow the orders of the spiritual master, But then there's different levels. We used to have this expression we call it the PDS, pure devotee syndrome, because some devotees are, they just stopped at the first level. I'm a pure devotee, but they hadn't, taken it up a bit. Prabhupada was completely attached to Krishna. So one time, a reporter was asked, well, when did you become, when did you first know Krishna? When did you become attached to Krishna? And Prabhupada, in a very sober way, said there was never a time that I forgot Krishna. One other time, another reporter asked this question. He goes, when did you first become Krishna conscious? And he gave his birthday. It was September 2nd, 1896, And the person said, no, but when did you become... And Prabhupada very, he repeated that, It's like, in other words, there was never a time that he forgot Krishna. He was also a very meek person, again, and humble, the qualities of a devotee. I'm not sure if Shamsuna put this in his book, but when we were in the early days in San Francisco, we were always trying to find ways to present Srila Prabhupada to the public. And in particular, we wanted to kind of expand our horizons a bit. So there was an opportunity to go on this radio show. And the radio show was hosted by a person who was known to be really sarcastic. Everybody knows what sarcastic means. But he would be sarcastic / insulting to his guest on the show. He would bring these people in, and he would insult them. This is like being but people would come. Doesn't because they would get exposure. So we were invited to come. We have some competition here. No. So we asked Prabhupada, at that point we were still at the Swamiji group, and should we do this? I mean, it's got a big listening audience, but this person, he can be very insulting actually. And we didn't want Prabhupada to be in that position, but Prabhupada said, no, at least he'll hear Krishna. He'll hear Krishna's name. So he was willing to take the risk of being insulted just to broadcast Krishna's names. But what happened was very interesting. Part of the show was he would introduce a person, the person would speak, usually he'd start insulting him, and then he would have the radio audience. You could call in on your phone. In those days we had these kind of phones that were, you dialed on it, like dial up, so you dial, we were there with our fingers on the dial ready to dial. So Prabhupada spoke, and then he goes to the guy who didn't assault him, and he said, now let's hear from a radio audience. So we thought, okay, he's going to save the insults for later. So of course, Swamiji, what does Hare Krishna mean? It was Gargamuni. Next to, somebody else after, then the guy said, it seems like maybe this is all your followers. Can we hear from somebody else? So here was this lady, she goes, Swamiji. I still remember this voice. So, you came over on a free ride on the ship. You came over for the free ride. And he goes, yes. So, you're a freeloader. Now, I mean, does everybody here know what this means, freeloader? It's a rude way, it's not a pleasant way to describe somebody. It's like saying you're a worthless person, you're just taking, that's all, But she goes, so you're a freeloader? And Prabhupada said, yes. Because, it was free. But this is where we all thought, okay, now this guy's going to kick in. What he did, he goes, well, that's enough of her, and he knocked her off. And it was just amazing. Here was this guy who's made his living insulting people, but Prabhupada had pierced his heart. So, and Prabhupada, if he had he just, when the lady insulted him, but he took it in the other, he didn't take it as an insult. So, one other time, another quality of a devotee is that they're self-controlled. So there was a big program in Paris, like a really big one, and hired hall, and somehow or other, like it didn't always happen that we pack a hall, but somehow we did on this occasion. But the French people talk about sarcastic. They are the masters of sarcasm, and they're very irreverent. They're very nose in the air. So he was speaking, and the devotees had brought the Vyasa sign from the temple. It was a big stage, so actually, as big as it looked very little on that stage, but still it was unusual sight, for most of the members in that audience. And the men were on one side, the ladies were on the other. And then there was some kind of a heckler. A heckler means somebody who's like let's say I'm talking now, and somebody's out there saying stuff back, rudely saying things. So the person said, so why are you sitting there on that big seat? Prabhupada said, you can also sit on the Vyasa sign, provided you become self-realized. He said it very just, he didn't say it sorry, but after it stopped the person, but at the same time afterwards, Prabhupada told the devotees, don't bring it again. Because he could see it disturbed people's minds. If their minds are disturbed, they have less opportunity to hear the message. And the message was more important than the seat. So, but still, how he was very self-controlled. He didn't defend, didn't put the person down. Another quality of a devotee is that the devotee is very grave. And one time someone was seeing this picture of Prabhupada, and the picture he happened to see, Prabhupada wasn't smiling. So he was asking, well, why isn't he smiling? And Prabhupada remarked to the devotees that he doesn't understand spiritual ecstasy. You know, we think if you're being happy, you know, you've got to have a big silly grin on your face or something. And Prabhupada was pointing out that spiritual ecstasy isn't portrayed the way we might see it, you know. And also letting us, it was for us a little insight, you know. It's not that one minute you're ecstatic and the next minute you're something, if you're a realized person, you're always in contact with Krishna, therefore you're always ecstatic. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada was such a compassionate person. And his compassion was displayed, something you could experience and something that was tangible, not just there's that word compassion and you're like wondering, well, what does it mean? What has he done? So I'll just give a wonderful example that there was a young boy, this is like really early in the movement, 67 and early 68, and the young boy, 19 years old, joined our temple in San Francisco. And he was initiated, and he got the name Krishna Das. And it was one nice story that he was assisting Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada had some letters that had to be mailed. So he gave him the letters, and the boy looks, and he saw there was a little slit at the top of the envelope. So he said, Swamiji, there's a little hole. He came back, all the way back. There's a hole here, Prabhupada, you know. He said, it's okay. He said, but there's a hole here. And Prabhupada looked at him and he said, no, all that I do is perfect. And he didn't say it like in an arrogant way. In other words, I haven't made a mistake. But in order to let the person know, like, so there was two, you know, one was just how to view the spiritual master was one. That's know that all I do is perfect. But then he explained, this letter is going to India. And it's coming from America. So they think there may be some money. They'll open it and the letter will never get there. And we actually had those kind of experiences. Sending a letter to India used to be like, you know, who knows if it'll get there or not, you know. I said, so they'll open it and there's no money, but then the letter will be lost. He says, so I've left a little hole so they can see there's no money. Know that all I do is perfect. So this boy, Krishna Das, had a younger sister. And the younger sister had had a very sorry life. When the mother was pregnant, she did not want the child. By Krishna's grace, she didn't seek an abortion. But when she delivered the child, she just left the hospital and left the baby there. I mean, imagine your mother just like walk it out on you right at the time of birth. Anyway, in California, they're very big on keeping families together, so the social service and whatever, they got, you know, the baby and the family together. But she didn't have a very pleasant life. And as she got older, the mother would keep her out of school and send her out to shoplift. In other words, to steal. So she had a lot of absentees, and her grades suffered because of this missing school. And she wasn't happy. But she saw her brother was happy, and she saw the book, it was in Macmillan, the first edition of Bhagavad Gita, so she became somewhat, she read that, she was getting attracted. But still, she was underage, so she couldn't, you know, freely go to the temple. And the mother saw, I don't want my daughter going because, you know, the son is like dropped out of the family scene. So he was concerned for his sister because he knew it wasn't, you know, a favorable condition at her home. And we were having a darshan with Srila Prabhupada, and he asked, Swamiji, is there something we can do for Sarah? Her name was Sarah. Prabhupada's sitting there, and he's looking at, you know, a little handful of devotees that we were at that time, and he looks at me and Shyam Sundar. So at that point, this was probably in January of 68, and I'm already pregnant. I'm 22 years old, and so Shyam Sundar is like, you know, 24 going on 25, and he goes, perhaps Shyam Sundar and Malati can adopt her. And she was like 16 years old going on 17, and already, you know. So immediately, all right, you know. The next day I went to the courthouse and I found out how to gain custody. Because in California, they're really, as I mentioned, they're big on keeping the family together. So the idea of somebody who was not part of the family taking your kid was just kind of unheard of. And what to speak of the fact, anyway, our ages were kind of... So we were given a court date. The girl had to come, Sarah had to come, her mother and father, they weren't together anymore, but they were the parents, and myself and Shem Cinder. One by one, the judge called us to her chamber, spoke to us. And then we're sitting there, and the judge comes out, and she goes, well, this may be a little unusual that the mother is 22 and the daughter is 16, but I give custody to this couple. And she hit her gavel, that confirmed, she hit the gavel. Suddenly we had a grown daughter. Now, Sarah was really, talk about ecstatic. She was, gosh, now I can go to the temple all day like the other devotees. Don't have to go to school anymore. But Prabhupada had another plan. He goes, you must finish school. She was in high school. You must finish school. So, but it was an order from Prabhupada, so she accepted it, but she wasn't happy. And when I took the papers, there was a school 1 block from the temple. So I took her high school record, which was really bad, like probably the highest grade was a D+. And, all the absentees, and I go there and I want to enroll this girl, and he's looking at me, and I showed the court papers. I am the guardian now, So, okay, but he looked at this just doesn't look good. I don't think we can accept her here. And somehow Krishna just spoke on my behalf. He just told me what to say. I have to say that, because suddenly out of my mouth I said, just give her one chance. One chance. It'll be different this time. I promise you. So I said it with such force. He said, okay, all right. And I'm sitting, I had a sari tilak. We were like, we were... So she was going the very next day. She's like walking to school. She's got her sari and her tilak. And although she didn't like it, she was going, and her grades, as I said, they were going up. At the same time, she's like not wanting to be there. Prabhupada was coming again. So now we're having a darshan, and she has an idea. She told me, I have something to tell Swamiji, and when he hears it, for sure he's going to tell me to, drop out of school. So, raised her hand, she says, yes, Swamiji, when I go to school, the boys bother me. And she was a beautiful girl. Blonde hair, blue eyes, beautiful girl. Also a very good artist. So the boys bother me, so she thought that would really get him. He goes, oh? So she got a little courage. Yes, they want to come and see me after school. And they asked for my address. Prabhupada goes, oh? When they ask for your address, give them the address of the temple. And that way, they will see Krishna. So later on in the darshan, she had some philosophical question. And when he heard the question, he looked up and he says, just see this young girl, how eager she is for Krishna. And then he looked at her and he goes, if you like, Krishna will kiss you. But eagerness is one of the qualifications, for gaining Krishna. She almost came to England with us. She came as far as Montreal on her way to England. And she had a choice, because she was a painter. She could either go to Boston and study painting under Jagirani or come with us to England. And while we were there in Montreal, a young male devotee showed up and ding, the heart. So Prabhupada said, oh, so you like Vaikuntanath? And she goes, yes. And she said, so you want to marry him? She said, yes. And now she's 17. So Prabhupada said, but first you have to finish school. But he called Vaikuntanath. He asked her, okay, so and she get married. So she didn't end up coming to England with us. And she became one of the artists for the BBT, the Saradia Devi Dasi. And a few weeks ago, she left, or a few months ago now, but very toward the end of the year. She left her body in San Diego due to the effects of cancer. You know. But she was a very dear to Srila Prabhupada, and not for a moment did she ever forget him. So his compassion on her saved her.